I wake up in the fives. Depends on the day, depends on how many times I hit my alarm. My husband is not a morning person. So, some days I try not to torture him. My kids are now attuned to my morning schedule and are often up around the same time I am up. So there is kind of a Pied Piperness of the morning, which means that I am not laying the newspaper out and reading it with a lovely cup of coffee in the morning. What I try to do is, I listen to some morning podcasts that will give me some news. I try to kind of read while I'm getting out of the shower on my iPad. I do what a lot of working moms or working people in general do, which is just to try to catch as much of it as you can. So, the morning is always a little crazy. I will say this morning, I was coloring in a picture of Cinderella. My daughter told me I was very good at coloring, which I took as a nice compliment. My son was lining up cars for a particular car race. So that's part of my morning too. Then I go to work. I usually leave at like 7:15 or 7:30. I have a call with my team, catch up on things. I would say how I prep is a combination of trying to read as much as I can, of course, asking the policy teams and experts as many questions as I can. If they were being honest with truth serum, I think they would say that sometimes I'm a little relentless. My view is that the best communicators are people who aren't going to read the talking points, but read versions of them. Sometimes you have to read exactly them if it's a legal thing, but who understand and know the issues so that you can kind of explain it in language that is accessible vernacular. I don't achieve that every day, but that's what I try to do. So sometimes I will read all the press guidance, which every policy team produces, and then I will say, could I say it like this? Could I say it like this? What about that? These people are asking this. Could I say this? And I want to know everything, always. We're dealing with an incredibly fractured media environment and an incredibly fractured social media environment that promotes extremes, right? Promotes extremes. And, I saw some statistic the other day about Twitter. I mean, I use Twitter. Every reporter uses Twitter. I don't think we should deny it. We all use it, but we're basically talking to ourselves, right? On Twitter, on cable, all of these things. And if you look at the statistics, only about 20% of the public, maybe less, is on Twitter. Twitter is very white, it's very liberal, it's very coastal. But sometimes it becomes a self-perpetuating thing where Twitter drives media coverage drives Twitter. It becomes this circle that may not be identified with where people in the public are, but it's hard to know. Ding, ding, ding. I can't talk. I have to be careful about politics because of the Hatch Act police that are waiting outside in the bushes somewhere. What I will say is, the country, the political games and harsh and cruel attempts at laws that we're seeing in some states like Florida, that is not a reflection of the country moving to oppose LGBTQ plus communities. That is not what we see in data. That is not factual. And that is not where things stand. This is a political wedge issue and an attempt to win a culture war. And they're doing that in a way that is harsh and cruel to a community of kids, especially. I'm like going to get emotional about this issue because it's horrible. But it's like kids who are bullied. And like all these leaders are taking steps to hurt them and hurt their lives and hurt their families. And you look at some of these laws in these states, and it is going after parents who are in loving relationships who have kids. It's completely outrageous. But it is a wedge issue. Sorry, this is an issue that makes me completely crazy. But it is an issue that is a political wedge issue. It is not a reflection of where the country is. And what people should understand is what we're talking about here in Florida, for example, okay, I'm going to pull my stuff together now, is that, families, if you have a kid in a classroom, and I have a kindergartner, right? I can imagine her saying, my friend has two moms, my friend has two dads. And the teacher in her classroom, I would hope, would say, that's wonderful. They're loving parents and you have a mom and a dad. This is penalizing teachers and educators. I mean, there are so many layers of this that are outrageous. And I hope people continue to educate them on this and themselves on this, because it is a bad side of politics, is what I will say. And I will not cry again during this interview, I promise you. But this is an issue. this is an issue that makes me very crazy. The day that gay marriage was affirmed by the Supreme Court was my favorite day in the White House under President Obama. I was 8 months pregnant, so I was also kind of emotional. And, you know, the thing about Supreme Court rulings is you don't know when they're coming. You don't know what's going to come on what day. So I remember being in Dennis McDonough, who's the chief of staff, his office. I remember it coming out that they had ruled and affirmed gay marriage across the country. We were hugging, we were high-fiving, people were crying, everybody was so happy. And then I remember going out into the Rose Garden, and again, I was about 8 months pregnant at the time, maybe 8.5 months pregnant. So I'm 5'3", so I was like a little bowling ball rolling around the White House. But my friend Paulette Eneskoff, who was in the outreach office at the time, was also very pregnant. And she said to me, what an amazing moment to be here. Like, what if one of our children is gay or lesbian, or they're a member of this community? And we were here this day. And this is affirming so many people's lives across the country. And so it was a very, very joyful day in the White House. And, you know, you have a lot of these in the White House. You have a lot of days that are heartbreaking and horrible and sad and hard. But there are also days of pure joy. At some point, I will not be in this job. You know, I did say at the beginning, and when I talked to the team about it, that I would stay about a year. Now, of course, you serve at the pleasure of the president. You can be fired any day. I like to just preface that because that's an important thing for people to understand and know. And to me, you know, my kids are 6 and 3, right? And so for them, this has been this journey, which they vaguely understand. My 3-year-old thinks I work at a Honda dealership, which is a compliment because he loves cars. I'm not really sure where it started, but he loves cars. It's totally fine. You know, if I didn't have these little wonderful people who are my most important audience in my life. But you know, what's ahead is at some point spending more time with them, sleeping, you know, all the things. And beyond that, we'll see.